Hey Tim, hey Austin. Morning,
Hello.
Paul.
Good morning. Good morning.
Good to see you, Dan.
Morning, Clayton. Morning, everyone.
Hi, everybody.
Morning, Amy.
Dan, I can't remember. Does the state have a day for Veterans Day?
We got Tuesday off. Yep.
Enjoy
So
your
thank
day.
you. I will. I will do a house project. That's what I always do.
Yay.
Boo.
We're gonna be making pancakes at GMT headquarters bright and early.
That's awesome.
I thought it was barbecue tomorrow, no?
It's gonna be pancakes to start off at 4 a.m. and transition to barbecue for lunch.
What time should we swing by that if we're gonna do that?
Anytime you want. Nate, cooking all day.
All right. I'll probably be by around like noon.
Sounds good.
All right. It is 11 o'clock. Let's see who we've got. We're just missing Andrea and Bob, maybe.
Bob is not gonna be in
Oh, right.
attendance.
He did. That's right. So let's just give Andrea a minute to get in.
Hi, Amy.
Hi, thanks for coming. So while we are all coming in, why don't we, since I think we do have quorum, why don't we get started on the little bits and pieces in the beginning? And I'm sure Andrea will be here before too long. So we'll call the meeting to order at 11:01. Are there any adjustments to the agenda?
And I'm sorry it's so full, Amy.
It's all right. There's a lot to think about. And so no adjustments to the agenda. We will go forward. I know Kim is here and probably wants to make a comment. Are there other members of the public here that also want to speak?
I do.
Okay. Why don't you lead us off, Kim?
Okay. I recommend John Moore be general manager for Green Mountain Transit.
Thank you, Kim.
You're welcome. Hi, John Moore.
Thanks, Kim. Okay. If there's no other public comments, then we will move on to the approval of the committee minutes from October 27th.
I move we approve the minutes as presented.
Thanks, Paul. We have a second?
I'll second.
Thanks, Austin. Any additional comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? Abstentions? Great. We'll move forward to where we get some meaty parts of our conversation. And so E&D funding has popped up as something that is important for us to discuss. Sorry for my squeaky chair. And I believe, I don't know, Clayton, were you going to kick it off or just lead it to right over to John?
It's going to go right over to John, and he's going to tell us about a situation that's going to impact both our urban and rural areas.
All right, that's fantastic.
Thank you, Amy, and thank you, Clayton. So, yeah, I want to brief the leadership committee on some budgetary challenges we're having in the O&D program, which is officially the Older Adults and Persons with Disabilities Transportation Program. So that's a mouthful, so I'll just refer to it as O&D. And as a quick kind of high-level overview of the program, 80% of the program costs are provided through VTrans with federal funds, which is great. VTrans also provides us $35,000 in state operating assistance in fiscal year 26 to help with the program. And then the remaining funding comes from local partners. And, the O&D program, a lot of people think of it as a rural program. We do also operate urban O&D service contracted through SSTA. And so there's really three regions that we operate in, FGI, Washington County, and then Chittenden County. In Chittenden County, we do get the full 20% cash match, which is very helpful. And partners there include AgeWell, UVM, Health and Hospice, and then local municipalities. In the FGI region, we have three partners who combine for a 12% local match. That's AgeWell, Cider up in the islands, and then Care Partners, who operates the Adult Day Center up in St. Albans. And then in Washington County, we have one partner, which is the Central Vermont Council on Aging, and they provide a 6% local match. So in our rural regions, we are not getting the full 20% local match, but we are able to use in-kind volunteer driving hours to match the federal funds, which is great when you have an abundance of federal funds, but it's not so great when you're overspending the federal funds, because those in-kind matches just draw those federal funds down quicker. And so we've been experiencing some of that. So in short, we have some pretty tough budgetary challenges in the program. Based on Q1 data, we're projecting about an $850,000 annual deficit. And our biggest fear is that we will get later into the fiscal year, run out of money, and not be able to provide, these critical trips. Social personal trips, are eligible under the program and are very important, for the well-being of, our neighbors and community members. But this program is also used for medical trips, and then also critical care trips to dialysis and cancer treatment, which are obviously life-sustaining services. And our biggest fear is we run out of money and we can't continue, all of those trips later on in the fiscal year. And so we want to be proactive and, work with the leadership committee and the full board and the finance committee, but also VTrans and our local partners. So we can proactively plan what we're going to do for the rest of the year so we don't run out of money, or we can identify additional money that we can use for the program. And just quickly to get into the reasons for the deficit, it's really multifaceted. There's no, one reason we have a deficit. We did receive about $350,000 less in federal funds. And so that's certainly a big impact. But we've also at the same time seen, a pretty tremendous demand increase. So our year-over-year ridership's about 14% higher in our rural areas, and it's actually 20% higher in Chittenden County. And then on top of that, of course, there's just the general inflationary increases from, fuel and labor and everything else in between. So really kind of a perfect storm of, revenue reductions, but also cost increases. And, it's not surprising that we are kind of in this situation. GMT currently provides in our rural areas up to 12 round trips per month for eligible individuals. And that is for the social personal and non-critical care medical appointments. If somebody is eligible and they need to go to dialysis or cancer care, we will provide unlimited trips because obviously those are life-sustaining services. In Chittenden County, the trip allowances are more varied. So each partner, can kind of set their own parameters in consultation with SSTA, GMT, and then of course the regional mobility committees operated through the regional planning commissions. But for example, the town of Williston, they have no limit on their monthly medical trips. So somebody in theory could go every single day. And Colchester, same thing, no limit on medical, and they offer up to 12 social and personal trips per month. So quite a bit higher than what we offer in the rural area, which is actually quite a bit higher than most other transit agencies provide in their service area. So one obvious thing to discuss, in the near future is, are these trip allowances too generous, and do we need to cut back on these for cost containment reasons? As I mentioned, what I would say, and Dan, please, fact check me on this, but what I've seen from the public transit policy plan and speaking with other transit agencies, the norm is about 6 round trips per month. And that does vary transit agency to transit agency, but I would say the average is, right around 6. And that is what TVT and RCT both offer. And that's obviously important because we have, transfers happening in the next 2 months in FGI and 7 months in Berlin. So we will work some more internally and come up with some ideas to share. But that seems to be an obvious starting point to me, is to match those trip parameter allowances at both RCT and TVT. So when I talk about the almost $1 million budget deficit, what that means in terms of when the money will run out is that in Chittenden County, by the end of next month, by January 1st, they may have likely spent their entire fiscal year 26 budget. And then our rural areas, we're looking, sometime March, April that we will run out of money. So again, we want to proactively plan to avoid that either by increasing revenue or trying to control the costs. So some ways we plan on doing that, quickly because, time is of the essence in this situation. Number one is to analyze some additional data in our rural service area. As you may remember, we were under corrective action through our Medicaid program, and we've done a lot of work, fixing that going forward, which we've successfully done, but we're now going backwards and, correcting some data. So we actually have only based our projections for the rural program on the September 2025 data. Initial results of October do show about a $20,000 cost increase in the rural area. So we think the problem's going to get worse, not better, as we look at additional months. But we do want to look at as much data as possible to make the best decisions as possible. We'll certainly discuss additional funding with our friends at VTrans. I think initial discussions have indicated that, while there may be some assistance, it's not going to be, $1 million. And so I think that's just the reality of it. So, we'll get more information from Dan and see what assistance is there, but there will likely need to be some cost containment in addition to any additional funding. And so based on that, we will be developing internal trip constraint proposals to present to all the program partners in the board. And again, I think the most obvious short-term first step is matching what TVT and RCT does, which again is about cutting in half the available trips that we currently allow for. And then, lastly, this, in my opinion, is not a good idea, but, the board could certainly consider the use of our fund balance to cover some or all of the program losses. We would definitely want to loop in VTrans and RCT and TVT based on the transfer, because the more we spend of that is the less that, they will have for transfer expenses and other things. But just to throw that out there, that could be a solution. Maybe not the best one, but one, probably worthy of discussion. So again, I think this week we'll work internally to, kind of analyze these options and come up with some short-term recommendations we can present to our E&D partners, and try to get ahead of the curve as much as possible and avoid running out of money before the fiscal year is over. There won't be any easy choices, and we expect there will be limited local funding increase opportunity, but we'll certainly ask the local partners if they have additional funds to bring to the table, but that may be difficult. And so hopefully by the end of the week, we have a good plan that we can present to everybody and, come to a consensus. But like I said, moving quickly is pretty critical based on the spending we're seeing, especially in Chittenden County right now. So with that, happy to hear any solutions you folks may have or questions, and go from there.
All right, Paul, go for it. Kick us off.
Yeah, just a clarification. You mentioned that different towns had different amount of availability for their riders. Who's making those decisions?
So each region has a mobility committee, and those mobility committees are made up of GMT, SSTA in Chittenden County, because they're the actual service provider, and then all of those local partners. So the regional mobility committees kind of make those decisions, but we've given a lot of leeway to each individual partner to make those decisions. And then we bring back kind of the budgetary realities. In this case, quarter ones, has spent, half of the annual budget allotment in the first 3 months. So then that's where kind of reality kicks in that, those trip parameters just aren't matching the revenue that's available for the program.
Yeah, my question on that is, do we have the data that says, if there's unlimited social trips, what's the average amount that an individual is utilizing? If we max out at 6, for example, do we have most people using 6, or do we have most people using 30? Do we have that information?
We have it available, Amy. I haven't gone through and done a deep dive. What I can tell you is that, our initial reaction was, let's prioritize, critical care, non-critical care, medical, and social personal last. And we thought, well, maybe, it's unfortunate, but maybe one proposal is we just don't allow social and personal trips. But I haven't looked at the individual member level, but when you combine, all of the social personal trips, it's only about 15% of the total cost. So even if we said no social personal, it's not going to get us, all the way where we need to be. So unfortunately, if there's no additional revenue identified, we'll likely have to cut into some of those non-critical care medical allowances as well. But to your point, if no one's using 6 social personal a month and we cut it down to 4 and no one's even using 4, we're not going to save any money. So we can get that data from Round Match. It's just a very large kind of data analysis project.
I lost my other question. Sorry. Anybody else? Go ahead, Paul.
Just clarification, is this eligibility required for people to ride this?
Yeah, so the eligibility is 60 or older and or having a disability as defined by the ADA. And so in Chittenden County, and then to take it one step further, Paul, in Chittenden County, ADA takes precedent. So if you're eligible for ADA, you get billed to the ADA program. If you live in Richmond, where there's no ADA service, then you would qualify for the O&D program.
My other question, which I now remember, and I see Susan has a question, and then Catherine. Do riders pay anything for this?
We do not require a fare. In Chittenden County, they do request a donation, and it varies by partner, so it's not the same amount. It's between $1 and $2.50. And program wide, we get about $1,000 a month in passenger donation. So it's not nothing, but it's certainly not $900,000.
Okay, thanks, Susan, and then Catherine.
Yeah, thank you. You covered a lot of information very quickly, so I was trying to take notes here. But I wanted some clarification. You're suggesting that perhaps one of the things we look at is recommending matching the trip allowance with TVT and RCT. So that would be 6 round trips per month, if I was following everything correctly. And would that be applied to Chittenden County as well?
Yes, I mean, that would be my initial recommendation, and we may need to look, after Q2 and see if there's additional restrictions we need to put in place. But that would be my initial thought, is to match both TVT and RCT system-wide at GMT, so FGI, Washington County, and Chittenden County.
Okay, thank you.
Go ahead, Catherine.
Thanks, and thanks for inviting me, especially to the meeting, Clayton. John, you may have been around before when this has happened before, when the fund has run out of money and some really tough decisions had to be made. And so I compliment you on starting this process early, because the sooner adjustments are made, the better. But one of the things that I remember the partners doing last time is really making a concerted effort to make sure that everyone who is eligible for Medicaid actually signed up, even if they hadn't previously, or make sure everybody that uses the program has signed up for everything that they're eligible for. Because they found that some folks just didn't want to apply for other things they might be eligible for because they had this as an option. So I would just suggest that as an option too, that partners really make an extra effort.
Yeah, that's a great suggestion, Catherine. And working with the partners, I think would be the best solution to that. We are required, when we do an intake O&D trip reservation, to do a Medicaid cross-check. So if somebody is duly eligible for Medicaid and O&D, and they try to book a medical appointment under O&D, we will book it to Medicaid. But if someone hasn't taken the time to enroll into Medicaid, they won't be, included in that process. So we can certainly work with the partners on that.
Super helpful. Thank you. Other questions? I know we have to move on. John, what did you need from us today?
I think just the conversation, and we will develop some internal recommendations. Like I mentioned, I don't think there's any board approval that's required under our service change policy for the demand response nature of this. But we will be working closely with our partners, our O&D partners, and definitely keep you guys updated along the way. There may be some decision making from the board if, if the fund balance becomes considered. But in terms of the trip allowances, I think working with the partners and, will be the critical kind of communication piece.
I have one last just question to ponder out there. Is it would be really interesting to know not just how many trips the average person is utilizing, but if it's cancer and dialysis that are somewhat driving these, the solution is different than if it's just regular medical appointments or social trips. So, I work next to the dialysis center here in Franklin County, and I see lots of trips, which of course is required when someone is on dialysis. And so it'll be curious to see what's causing the majority of the trips.
Yeah, the critical care was about 20 to 25%. The biggest piece of the pie was the non-critical care medical, which was about 50 to 55% of
Thank you.
program costs. So
Thanks for bringing it up. Thanks for all of us for chewing through that. And Catherine, thanks for the historical perspective and the push to make sure that we are getting people using services that are available to them before charging to this. Anything else on this? Okay, we are going to move on. Thanks, John. We are going to move on to the rural recommendations, which we've been talking about for a while now, and let's keep talking about it until we get where we want to be. Clayton? You're muted.
Of course I'm muted. We should have, you should be able to see the screen now for a commitment to urban staffing. And so this will be an extension of our discussion that we had last time around, but focusing only on the portion of the recommendations that have to deal with staffing, because that
Wait,
was,
we're seeing a blank screen.
what?
Black one.
Let's try to share that again.
Okay.
Now do you see it?
No.
That's so interesting because
I can see
I
it.
see it.
Oh,
I also
I
see
it
can
is
see it.
me. I'm the problem. Now I see it. Who knows?
no. And so the last time around, we heard some feedback from both the board and from our friends of VTrans about some of the language that was in here. So decided to refocus on looking at our past studies, specifically the study on rural operations, which was what was used to determine whether the rural transfer would make sense last fall, folks may remember. Also looking back at the original organizational assessment. And so the top paragraph there just talks about the overall staff loss that experienced from 2012 to the 24th. The next paragraph is from the report, providing what the impact was. Then the moving away from that is just letting folks know that we have had significant overall staff reductions since we've had a 22% reduction in drivers. And then also making sure that we let folks know that we did eliminate a driver supervisor position. So even though that's an operational position, we have eliminated a supervisory position in operations to reflect the 22% reduction in drivers. We also eliminated our only administrative assistant position when we had a departure earlier in the year. So again, focusing back to what was in the study, which showed that we had 18 staff members in 2024 that were non-operational. Right now we have 19. Part of that is because we have two positions that are 80% paid for, two new positions, I should say, that are 80% paid for by CCRPC. So that's a very good thing. And then also tying back to our original organizational assessment, indicating that 19 was right-sized for non-operational staff managing a small transit agency. And then closing up just with our commitment that we will be evaluating all positions. We know that some of our spots are going, or some of our jobs are going to change in focus. And so we want to make sure that our folks that are having a lightening of the load with the rural transfer are able to refocus with new tasks in support of urban. And what I see that staff doing is addressing the performance concerns that Fauble identified in the quote above, but also helping us generate non-state revenue for GMT, because I think that we're going to need more staff focused on approaching whether it's employers, developers, human services agency. It doesn't matter. We're going to need staff knocking on doors to raise revenue. And so sorry that I'm rushing through this, but with our limited time today, wanted to just focus on that. And so is this a better approach than we did the last time? How does this feel, Amy and company?
I'm lost in the question. So a better approach than
the last time. So with the language that we have last time, some had objected to, and so just asking if you like how I laid this out differently this time around.
it certainly is okay for me. Others? Go ahead.
Alana.
I certainly appreciate your laying out the argument for maintaining the staff and refocusing that staff on the urban mission and carrying out the urban mission. So I think that it's better to be positive in the communication and to communicate where we're going. So I appreciate the changes or the modifications. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep, I agree. I think it's it lays out not just that we don't want to reduce staff, but why. So well put.
And I appreciate the fact that we've been focused on right-sizing our staff for some time, as we have had some departures and not replace them, and making sure that, going forward, we'll have the right staff to do the amount of work that we'll have. So I appreciate that it's framed and highlights the ongoing conversation internally we're having about staff. What more do you need from us, Clayton, at the moment?
Nothing at all. At our next leadership committee meeting, I'll have the fully revised report, which I'll ask your blessing for, and then we'll vote on it at the December meeting.
Great. Thank you. I feel like we're going at breakneck speed today. Sorry, y'all. The next item on the agenda is the ADA assessment methodology.
Right. And so I had sent out an email before I went on vacation, letting folks know that that I had made a mistake regarding our ADA assessment methodology. And so I just wanted to make sure that we discussed it briefly here in case anyone had any questions and about how we got to the spot. And so in summary, in 2023, we made adjustments to our ADA methodology. The reason why we made these changes is because we heard from our municipal members that the volatility in the ADA program was something that was difficult for them to manage in their budget process. And so we worked with Stedman Hill to come up with a new assessment methodology that would look to sort of flatten out those peaks and valleys. It would look at both the origin of the trips and the destination, so that it would be split, between communities. We also went to a 3-year average instead of just a yearly. And so all of this is designed to provide, less volatile ADA assessments. The board approved that in the fall of 2023. But what we did not do is the all critical next step, and which is that we should have gone out to our, at that time, 9 legislative bodies from our municipal members, and sought to get them to endorse this change. And so without doing that, that means that we made changes to our assessment methodology that we were not authorized to make because we hadn't sought that approval. So now we're in a situation where we've used this methodology for a previous fiscal year. We are building our fiscal year 27 based on this new methodology. And so in consultation with our lawyer, Ed, his recommendation was that I go out to each municipal member with the 2023 assessment methodology and ask them to retroactively approve it. With 8 members now, we would just need 6 to do that. And if 6 did that, then the error would be corrected and we could move on. If it fails, then we will need to figure out how we are going to return to our previous ADA methodology. And so the timing of this is somewhat fortuitous in that normally I go out in November, December, and January to talk to each of the members about their assessment. And so I can talk about both their fiscal year 27 assessment and the request that we'll have for them to vote. Hopefully, our members will see that this is something that's addressing that as a concern of theirs and as an improvement, and that we won't have a problem with it getting approved. So just wanted to let you all know that that's what happened. Accept my I'd like to lay out my apology for us being in the situation and answer any questions that you may have on the topic.
What questions do folks have? I think it's a fair reminder that we did all that work and went with this new methodology to really eliminate that volatility that the municipalities were impacting. And so I think that allows us a good argument to have to present that that was the motivation and that was the outcome, and hope that that allows us to move forward with that.
Also, by the time I go out, I should have some analyses done that would be able to show, hey, this is what the volatility would be if we didn't change, and here's what we're at now thanks to this wonderful new methodology. And so that hopefully we'll have some data to show that it's working.
Okay. No other questions or comments? Okay. Susan looks like she's mulling something, but that's okay. All right. So that's the path forward. And hopefully when you go out to the municipal visits, we're able to join you in our municipalities, which is also a super fun thing to do with your evening. So I'm looking forward to that. And we'll know when you schedule those, let us know so we can join in if we can.
Absolutely.
All right, moving on to the urban engagement survey, which I really appreciate being able to kind of peruse quickly before we're able to meet today. There's a lot in there, so take it away.
Yep, there is a lot in there. And so we are tentatively planning on having Jason and Stephen come to the December board meeting to walk through what is in there. And what I wanted to do today is to just sort of focus on the overall recommendations and then 2 sort of data points that stood out to me. And so as everything that we get from Jason and Stephen, they provided a very nice memo. I'm going to share that. And we'll see if I can get it shared the first time. Let's go there. And so wanted to start off on page 3, which is the 6 prioritized recommendations. And I think that what you're going to find is that by and large, these are sort of a continuation of what we saw and heard in our initial climate assessment with them. And so one of the things that we heard is the desire for more structure to the board, considering that we sort of paused committees and paused a lot of our sort of big picture work with the rural transfer. I'm not surprised at all to see this as coming through. And I think that we are going to be well positioned to be addressing this. And talking with Amy and Andrea at our meetings, I think that we're in agreement that we're going to restart some of our committee work and big picture work in early 2026. So I think that that will give us an opportunity there. Also, not surprisingly, when you look at the one below, feedback, to me is that I need to make sure that I'm, holding staff accountable and that I'm providing the clear expectations. We've seen before a request for us to have evaluations and for us to be holding all staff accountable. And so that's certainly feedback that I'll take to heart. Something that I'm sure that Susan will be happy to see, because we certainly have heard from her our desire to move in this direction. And so not surprised to see people share Susan's perspective. And I'm looking forward to doing this work in 2026 as we contemplate our more focused future. When it comes to rebuilding the culture and trust, from talking with Jason and Stephen last week, this was more about the interdepartmental work. And so one of the things that I'll be looking to do is figuring out ways to have more cross-functional meetings. And an example of that is something that we've recently started that I've become very happy with, which is that we do a payroll hot wash after every payroll, where Nick and Tammy and Rich on the finance team that process the payroll come in and talk with Stephanie, Jimmy, and I. We look at what the trends are in overtime. We just talk about various payroll issues. And I think what really makes that meeting, which we target for just 15 minutes, because hey, it's just a dive in to see what's happening. What I like there is that you have finance, HR, operations, all at the same table, looking at the fresh payroll to see what stands out. The next item is certainly something that we heard from our union staff about the importance of the safety work. And so we'll continue to work with our safety committee and also addressing infrastructure issues. And so a lot of our infrastructure is not in great shape, and we need to keep addressing that. And lastly, just using the urban transfer as a reset. And I can tell you that my impression is that definitely the staff see this as an opportunity to have a reset. I hope the board is feeling, sort of similarly, and so we're happy that it's funny when a lot of times when you'll do a climate assessment, you'll see things and it will go on, a bookshelf. When we did our first climate assessment, we took that feedback and ultimately are completely changing our organizational structure and are downsizing and transferring service. So we have a history of taking these climate assessments and acting upon them. And I'm excited for doing that in 2026 after the rural transfer. Things that stood out to me, I'm going to jump ahead to, I think it's page 9. And so what you see here are three pie charts. And when you see blue, that means that staff members think things are getting better. When you see red, you see that staff members think things are about the same. And when you see things green, you see staff members that thinks things are getting worse. So first off, I'm amazed at the division under the union where we seem to have sort of equal, like about a third of folks thinks things are getting better, a third about the same, and a third thinks that things are getting worse. I'm not surprised about that because the next stats I want to show you, I think is why some people think things are getting worse. What I'm really happy about is I'm happy to see that when it comes to our non-union staff and our board, that people feel like we are at least not moving in the wrong direction. And so that really happy to see that we don't have that sort of division. Really happy to see that the board feels that things are going in the right direction. It's about 50-50 for the non-union staff. I'd like it to be a little higher, but but I'll take that for now. And then lastly, before opening things up to questions, I just wanted to jump down to 11 because you're going to see right here, this is our biggest, drop. GMT offers a good benefits package. Oof. In 2023, we were out here. In 2025, we're down here. And so that's for our union employees. And you're going to find the same drop here with our non-union employees. And so I think that what we're seeing right there is sort of the discontent that is coming about because of the new health insurance thing. So it clearly people have noticed it and have not liked what they saw. But that's the sort of the high level things I wanted to throw out to you all early on, and we'll have Jason and Stephen to give us the full review later.
I chose this moment to shove an orange in my mouth, but
yes, perfect time.
My timing is always very good with that. Thoughts or comments? Susan, you're off mute. Go for it.
Yeah, thank you. So two comments. Thanks for continuing to do this and having us continue to reflect on where we are and how things are going. I did want to just throw out there that and the two high-level recommendations, one about developing better accountability systems, including evaluations. I even think I read that our employees don't have work plans. I think I came across that. So hopefully we will start doing that. And I think that as we implement those accountability structures, I would hope that we can have them tied closely to whatever strategic plan we eventually develop so that it's all sort of logically consistent that the work that our employees are doing, that the board is doing, is all feeding up to whatever our strategic plan envisions us working towards. So I just would encourage us to link those two together as we move forward. And then the other comment I wanted to make, I'm just wondering if Stephen and the other individual who put this in, Jason, thank you. If they might just include a statement about sort of the statistical significance of the survey, comparing these survey results to one another, because I think they describe like the averages as sort of a modest improvement or increase. And we were talking like, 1/10 of a point there in the survey results. So, and we also had like half of the number of participants in the second survey. So maybe just couching this a little bit in terms of how much we can really take away regarding change in the data that we're looking at. So just maybe something.
The other piece of what I was thinking related to that was I don't know if there's a phenomenon where when you ask people for feedback and they're feeling particularly angry or negative or particularly positive, that they are more likely to take a survey and give feedback like this. So I'd be curious whether there's just common thoughts about that as well.
I do want to note that when it comes to the admin participation rate, still very high, but I'm very concerned that that there was a pretty large drop off for participation from our union staff. Absolutely something that I think that we need to dive into.
Right.
I wonder just, oh, sorry. On that front, I wonder if there's, you know, for the next time we do this, I wonder if there are takeaways for like, are there other ways to meet folks where they will actually fill out a survey, and just make sure that we're getting like a representative sample of our staff.
Yeah. You know, and talking with the stewards, one of the things that they, you know, suggested is just having conversations with staff, that may be more appealing than, say, asking somebody to fill out a piece of paper. And the other thing is that our union staff had it a more difficult process because since they don't have email addresses, the only way to have them securely submit under this situation was for them to, you know, mail in an evaluation. And even though we facilitated, like, hey, drop it in the envelope and we'll seal it and send it away, it was an extra step. And but since our most of our union employees don't have email addresses, they didn't have the option of doing it confidentially through an online survey.
I also think that if we do, and again, I don't know what our evaluation processes are, but if we do an annual review, or I'd prefer calling them like an annual conversation with each of our employees, that is an opportunity to ask questions at that point and get a maybe a truer sense of how folks are feeling.
Yeah. And also just to,
sorry, on that point, this is a conversation we've been having at work, but I do think tying an opportunity to talk about concerns in the workplace to performance can change the responses you get. So I think there is value in having this be an anonymous and separate process, but broadly, both seem like a good way to take a temperature. Yeah.
And one of the things that I would just want to make sure folks know is that if we were going to implement an evaluation system for our union employees, that would be something that we would have to negotiate and have added to the contract. So at least as far as when I'm thinking about developing an evaluation system at this time, it would just be for the admin staff.
Okay.
Nate?
Yep, go ahead.
If we have time.
No, only if you have a minute. I mean, clearly the evaluation shows that there is a definite disconnect between the board and the union, and that continues today. And I think it would be most appropriate for us to have an open and honest conversation in person, and that still doesn't happen. Most, if not all, of the drivers here still don't know what the board's function is, still don't know who the board members are, still don't know what the board does. And so until we can educate our drivers as to what your function actually is, there will continue to be this disconnect between the two parties. And I think the survey shows that, and it will continue to show that.
Thank you. That's helpful to hear. Okay. I also heard that I've got some work as far as what I can do to kind of really be a lot more intentional about strategic planning and visioning that we've been talking about and poking at, but not getting serious about. So that's kind of on me to push that forward a little bit more with some intention. I heard that as well. And with that said, I think we need to move forward. An hour is going by very quickly today. The last item before commissioner comments and our executive session is statutory changes.
And so for statutory changes, at our one of our previous leadership meetings, we talked about the potential for changing the board makeup. And since I've talked with Amy and Andrea a little bit, and we've remarked about the fact that we are already going to be going through a period of high change with the rural transfer, that by next, July, if the transfer happens, we'll be down to a 9-member board from our current 14-member board. And so one of the conclusions that we sort of took away is that we probably don't want to be recommending a change in board structure right now. I think that we should let the dust settle. I've done a review of the rest of the statute, and I see that there's plenty of places where we could do some housekeeping, especially after the rural transfer. But I don't see anything that's super critical for us to change right now. Frankly, I would love to do a strike all and start again. That's always been my dream with every, state, affiliated position I've been involved with. But really the items that I see as us wanting to address in the future are items like board membership, items like, hey, should we make bonding easier? Because currently the steps to go through bonding are really hard. And do we want to make amending our formula for assessment easier? Because, right now it is very hard. But I'm not sure that those are things that we want to tackle right now. And so really what my recommendation was going to be to you all is that, maybe for this coming session, we don't, there's not a need to tweak our statute. And that it would be better for us to address this, later on, when we have more time to think about what we really would want for an inclusive board makeup, and then have time to let certain other actions carry forth, like the assessment reform, that perhaps would, help guide us when it comes to how we can amend our assessments easier in the future, and do bonding. So I just want to throw out to there that I think that less may be more for this session, and want to see what you all think about that. Let's see if
I think when Clayton brought this to Andrea and myself last week, it almost felt like a really good idea to pause on making the change, but speed up our efforts to start thinking of what we want to look like and where we want to be. So connected to vision and strategic planning, to not lose sight of that there's going to be some statutory changes that will need to happen to make the organization, or at least the board, function in a much more smooth way. So I think the recommendation is don't pursue any particular change, but start discussing the changes that we want to have.
I would agree.
Cool. I like less work.
But it's not, because you still have to start planning it.
Damn it.
Yep. Awesome. It's this is a very, very meaty agenda, and I'm wondering whether there are any commissioner comments at the moment. We do have one additional item after that. Paul, do you have a comment? Oh, Paul, you muted accidentally after you were unmuted.
But push the button up or let it down. Anyway, I think 2 meetings ago, Nate asked about board absences. And at that point, I said we had something in our bylaws that was dealing with that. Clayton got all excited about that, and he reviewed it, couldn't find such a thing. I looked and couldn't find it either. So I was wrong. There is nothing in our bylaws that deals with attendance.
Great. Thank you for reviewing that and for correcting it with us. I appreciate that. Okay. No other commissioner comments. We do have one official personnel matter that we'd like to continue talking about, and that is the evaluation of our general manager. So one more time, I think I would entertain a motion to move into executive session to discuss a personnel matter. And I do not think we need any staff unless Clayton, you want to kick it off, or I think I can. Okay.
I'm happy to defer to you, and if you could just let us know when you come out and who did the motions.
I will do that. And I just want to share, and I think Kim is gone, but I just wanted to be very clear that if somebody is on, if we're in an executive session at the end of the meeting like this, that if a member of the public is here, she could exit the meeting, which we didn't successfully do last time. So she's gone. So never mind. I'll entertain a motion.
I will move to enter executive session.
Second.
Wait, do we need a motion
To discuss personnel.
to discuss
do not think-
personnel?
We need a motion. We don't need a finding.
Yes, thank you, Austin.
Okay.
I'll second.
Okay.
Any additional discussion before Clayton? Don't leave yet. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay. So Ash and Stephanie and Matt will catch up with you later. Dan, Clayton, don't leave. Oh, I see that Kim is in the waiting room, and I don't know how to manage a waiting room.
Unfortunately, you don't have to do anything. As long as you don't let her in, she'll just hang out there.
Okay, but then when we come back, is there a way that I can tell her to go, or will I automatically hang up on her? I don't want to inflame anything.
You can let her back in once we
Okay.
exit executive session. She's in the waiting room still.
All right. Thank you. I just
You know how to do that?
between all of us, we will figure it out.
Okay.
I've got a hard stop actually in 3 minutes.
Okay.
But, yeah.
All right. So thank you, Clayton. We'll see you. I'm turning off the recording. It's 11:56. So we are exiting executive session with no action taken at 12:17. I'm going to admit Kim back. I think maybe. Yes. Okay. So we're out of executive session, no action taken, and we have come to the end of our agenda. So I will entertain a motion to adjourn. And Kim, if you want to hang on for 1 second, I'll explain what happened and what we can do in the future, so you're not stuck in that waiting room again. But I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So
I'll
moved.
make a motion.
Oh, Paul, and then a
Second,
second
whichever.
by Susan. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. All right. Thanks, y'all, for this really important conversation. And I will see you all soon. I'm going to end the recording.